The next in our 2025 masterclass series entitled, I love the title, We Talk to the Man Who Knows His Cheese. Before we get down to business, as always, just a couple of quick housekeeping reminders. Please make sure your audio and your video are muted. The only people we want to see on the screen are myself and our guest today. You can submit questions. There's a chat button down the bottom. If you've got a particular question you want to pose to our host today, just hit that chat button, type it in, and we'll pick it up as we go along. And again, a reminder that today's program will be recorded. We will send a link out later on this afternoon. Look for a Lux Stream announcement from us, which will have the Zoom link in there, and you can always go back and reprise what was said today. If you missed something, there it is on our YouTube channel. So why today's program? As with all great and revered edibles and comestibles, understanding and appreciating the breadth and depth of offerings that cheese provides, from the mass-produced to the artisanal, requires an inquiring mind and palate and patient guidance from an expert who knows his stuff and genuinely delights in introducing his world to our world. Raymond Hook is that expert. He brings to Capella Cheese 30 years of global sourcing experience and direct connections with American cheese makers and specialty producers of each and every type. Raymond has worked with producers, retailers, and wholesale distributors, importers, exporters, and brokers. He is also a broadly published food journalist who has connected and worked with renowned food critics, culinary chefs, and food makers around the world. I've known Raymond for nigh on 25, 30 years myself. No man in the United States knows cheese like this man knows cheese, so we're very fortunate to get him today. And I said to Raymond right up front when we were discussing this program, this was not going to be a program where we'd have 5,000 people signing in. This was for people who really wanted to know and understand the beauty that resides within the world of cheese. And unfortunately, it gets cloaked by all the stuff that we see in supermarkets, the stuff that's put out there that really doesn't deserve much of our attention. So Raymond, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Well, thank you for having me. Like Alf
Let
said,
me
we've known each other 25 years.
That's right. That's right. Raymond, let's start. Let's get the Capella thing out of the way first up. Capella cheese, what is it and why did you start it? What's the game plan with Capella?
Our goal with Capella cheese was to create the fundamentals of what can be the greatest cheese shop. We've invested in the highest quality storage facility for our cheese. Now, we're not aging cheese or affecting it. Our goal is to buy cheese from producers in the best condition possible, and then maintain that condition for as long as we can. Sell it to our customers at the peak of highest quality. We chose here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a large city. No cheese shops were here. And we really do focus on the best of the best. But that doesn't mean that we've excluded cheese. We have 225 different cheeses in our case.
Okay, and we'll get in. I want to break that down and get granular on that as we go through. Just quickly, I'm fascinated by you. What got you fascinated by cheese in the first place? What was the attraction for you? And how did you build your knowledge over that 30-year period? Was it just trial and error, just gradual? How did you get there?
In 1984, my family bought a restaurant and it had a small retail cheese counter in it. I was in charge of the counter in the beginning. We took the cheese out, put other products in. Enough people came in requesting cheese. We brought the cheese back, and I really started to taste cheese that was more than grocery store cheese. And being it coming from the culinary background, I found that it was an enormous amount of flavors, different textures, reach. And the cheeses themselves were some of them very historical. They speak to where they're from, and it was just very interesting and intriguing. And then the more I got into it, the more cheeses I tried. When I first tasted the greatest cheeses, it really fueled my passion for more, and more.
I want to talk about sources of information, but we'll leave that towards the end. Let's get into understanding cheese. You're talking to a neophyte here. You know, with me, it's like art. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Uh, how do you learn to appreciate cheese? What are the characteristics that we should be considering when we taste? Is it like wine or is it something different?
There's a lot of it it's definitely a lot like wine. It really speaks to where it's made. There are traditionally 7 different styles of cheeses. The common ones are white blooming rind, your brie, your camembert. Then all the way to blue cheeses. We have firm cheeses, washed rind cheeses, fudgy textured ones, alpine style. So there are some different styles of cheeses and like wine, different varietals. I think really the easiest way for people to is find a good cheese shop and then build a relationship with a cheesemonger who's passionate about their job. They can help you figure out what you like, what you don't like, and you can communicate that better to them, and they can help you grow your palate and your perspective on cheese.
But again, understand the differences between categories of cheese, certainly blue cheese versus, camembert versus cheddar. That aside, are there specific palate characteristics that I should be considering when I'm tasting a cheese?
Well, just like wine, I mean, cheese, the age, young white bloomy rind cheese, the flavors hasn't developed. Older blue cheeses, they get strong. Some cheeses, they hit their peak at like 2 years, like Comté does. Less than that, the flavor hasn't fully developed. So it's like one of your burgundies that you're going to keep. You need to age it for 10 years before it's getting premium. So it's the same kind of setup with cheese. There are some cheeses, fresh cheeses, ricotta, and things like that are meant to be eaten right away. Semi-ripened cheeses take a little longer, and then we have cheeses that are aged up to 12 years. So it falls all on the spectrum, and different flavors, profiles take, different time periods to develop.
So a cheese distributor calls you today and says, Raymond, I want you to try a new cheese I'm importing. It arrives on your desk, you sit down, you cut it open, you take a slice and you taste. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for cheeses that are true to where they're produced and they're historical. Um, Perfect example is like a cheese like Manchego. Manchego there's so many different producers of it, and it's made in different styles. We have found the most authentic one made with the milk from the black sheep of La Mancha, the breed that the cheese was originally developed from, and the producers make it in the very same historical method that it's been produced for hundreds of years. So I mean, you need to seek out great producers and ones who are producing in traditional ways. Things like, Gruyere can now be technically produced anywhere in the world, but you want to look for things that say Gruyere AOP, which means it's name controlled from the correct region, and it's very much limited and directed to how it can be produced and how much of it can be made.
Let me throw a different question at you. The greatest cheese you have ever tasted, in your opinion, was what?
Well, the first great cheese I ever tasted was Serra da Estrela from Portugal, a soft
I'm
ripened
sorry, say that slowly. Was what again?
Serra da Estrela from Portugal, a soft ripening sheep's milk cheese that is renneted with wild thistle. It's super creamy. It's the first cheese that made me want to travel and learn more about cheese. But also like I think Comte is my like go-to for like great cheeses. If I want to share with people, I don't know what their palates are or what they like. It's kind of like a home run. I gotta say it appeals and impresses 95% of the people I give it to.
Go back to the Portuguese cheese again. When you sat down and tasted that, God touched you. Why? What was it about the cheese?
There was a flavor profile in it that I had never tasted. The texture of it was unlike other cheeses that I had had. But there's a lot of soft ripening cheeses, but they don't age like this cheese does. It goes from being soft and not very flavorful to becoming fully creamy, and it has some of the elements that sheep milk has because there's a lot of umami, kind of barnyardy flavors in sheep's milk cheeses, but they were controlled and it created an overall flavor that was just magnificent and it lingered on my palate and in my memory. I can remember tasting that cheese for the first time. I know exactly where I was and I was just like overwhelmed that that cheese was unlike anything I'd ever tasted and yet was incredible. It's absolutely delicious cheese.
Can you spell that for us?
Serra and then new word DE Estrella, Estrella.
Is that available in the United States?
Yeah, I have it most of the time. I bring it in limited quantities because I don't want to have to keep it for long periods of time. When I get it from Portugal, I turn around and want to sell it immediately when it's at the premier condition. You can eat it when it's older, but it's not the prime example of the cheese. Still really good when it's older.
Wine has the wine wheel. Again, I'm trying to get back to this classification. Is there any classification system with cheese similar to that's analogous to what wine has with its wine wheel?
There's there are different flavor wheel profile wheels, and there's actually the American Cheese Society has a sensory training, and it can give you uh, a little bit of knowledge on the different flavor profiles in each cheese. But just like, white wine, Chardonnay, it depends on where it's from. It depends on the maker. It depends on the age of what flavor. But yeah, there are a lot of cheese sensory guidelines and suggestions, maybe is a better way to put it, about the flavors that you can. But really tasting cheese is a memory recollection. It's not like a physical reaction. It's remind flavors remind you of things that you've tasted in the past. So the more things that you've tasted, the better able you are to describe the cheese. And I have tasted thousands and thousands of cheeses, and I taste them looking for what's the best component of their flavor profile, but also what's the components that may be divisive to people, what some people don't like, strong, sharp cheeses, or maybe they don't like, cheeses that are too salty. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you really only come out of individual cheeses. Now, in categories, that you can be a little bit broader in your flavor profile and descriptions.
The wine critic, retired now, Robert Parker Jr., made the statement one time that he had tested over 300,000 wines in his career to that point in time. And he said he could remember the taste profile of every one of those. I'm not too sure I believe that, but that was the statement that was attributed to him. You said you've tasted thousands of cheeses. Do you recall those tastes? Do you?
Oh,
How does that reside in your mind?
definitely. I've just tasted cheeses over and over. There's different characteristics. I know that when cheeses have a white bloomy rind like brie or camembert, that cultures that create that white bloomy rind as they ripen, they give off ammonia. So I look to see how well it's been packaged. And then, the difference between single cream, double cream, triple cream, uh, knowing the fat content of cheese, but also mostly it's a reflection of the how the cheese was ripened and aged. I can really taste the ones that are cave aged versus the ones that are in, commercial refrigeration. I really think that some environments foster the growth of certain parts of the cultures that are added to create stronger flavor profiles. I have
But
watched.
if you tasted Elf's cheese today, Elf's cheddar, would you remember the taste that would you remember that taste 5 years down the road?
I would probably remember tasting it and remember the characteristics of the cheese and what it looks like. Believe it or not, also what it smells like. Like what you
Okay.
smell is 80% of what you taste. And so I would file it away in my memory. And cheddar is a great line. I've tasted hundreds of cheddars. But yeah, I remember going to Wisconsin and tasting cheddar with the Widmer family, tasting the different ages of it and realizing how cheese ages. So can look at some lots of cheeses and tell by the texture and the conditions, the rind style, what the cheese will probably taste like. And then I can taste for more specific things. But you also have to, it has to be in the right conditions. The cheese has to be at room temperature. It has to be somewhat freshly cut. So a lot of things play into that.
Okay. There is no rating system for cheese like there is in wine. There's no 1 to 100 points or anything of that
I
nature,
mean,
correct?
there have been people who've tried it, but it hasn't stuck. It hasn't been widely used like in wine, where, but even in like wine, I mean, it's really like differences. But no, we don't have a scale. We have a lot of judging. So like the World Cheese Awards, they give out medals. So like if you have a gold medal winner at the World Cheese Awards, it's a really good cheese. If you have best to show, that just means that it was the best cheese in the world that year. And then, it gets lower down and the cheeses, devalue somewhat.
Raymond, you as a cheese purveyor, um, and let's also extend the principle to other premium cheese purveyors like Capella. We're not talking about Safeway. We're talking about people who know their cheese and sell good cheese. You said you've got over 200 varieties that you have in your store within your system. When cheeses come across your desk, how do you decide to stock them or not stock them?
I really look at the cheeses that I have, and any new product that comes in, I need to see what category I would place it in. Um, and then yeah, I would have to compare it to the cheeses that I keep, that I stock now. I have had to have tough conversations with people. They give me some, and I just say, your cheese is really good, but I don't have a cheese I could take out of my case. I don't, or I don't need to fill that particular like niche in my case. Um, it's very difficult for me to add cheeses. Actually, I just added 4 new cheeses from a domestic goat producer, and I haven't added any new domestic goat produced cheeses in 2 years. And the ones I tried, they were in incredible condition. I can tell just by the way they arrive, they're made by professional cheesemakers who have knowledge of their products and how to handle them. Uh, the way they arrived to me, the whole wheels were such good condition that it was a great reflection on the cheesemaker and the dairy.
I want to talk about Torah, but be um, well, let's go to Torah. I assume it's like wine. Does it come down to the actual dairy, to the location, to the are there appellations or AVAs with cheese?
Sure,
How does it
sure.
work?
Not so much in America, but definitely in Europe and countries like France, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, Portugal. I mean, France is what a lot of people know about, but like Comté can only come from the Jura Mountains, and triple creams and bries come from Ile-de-France. The goat cheeses of the Loire River Valley have traditionally excelled in quality. They're just some of the truest forms of it, and that's where they've historically produced the best of the goat cheeses in the world. And other places who make goat cheeses try to make cheeses of that quality. But terroir really does speak to where the cheese is made, who the people who make it, the dairy. Last year, I went to Fritzenhaus Dairy in Wassen, Switzerland, home of the most renowned, most respected, most awarded cheesemaker alive. And his dairy is incredibly unique. He doesn't add cultures to, he incubates today's milk, a portion of it, and adds it into tomorrow's milk. And so it's a continuation of it, but it has all of the wild cultures that are in his cheese shop or in his make room and his aging facility that affect it. And so those cheeses can only be made in his cheese shop. And he buys the same milk from the same six dairymen, and they produce the milk to his specifications and quality level. He tests the milk every day. So those are, I mean, it all starts with the milk, and some people will tell you it even goes in a couple steps further. It's the dirt that the animals graze on or the feed is generate that affects the quality of the milk. And great cheesemakers are like great wine producers. They get the greatest raw products, grapes or grape juice or milk, and try to make the best quality cheese, but also to encapsulate the quality of the raw products into it. The milk that they make the highest quality Gruyere from comes from the highest quality animals on the highest quality, feed source, pastures. So
Okay.
yeah, there's a
So,
whole
so,
lot
so,
of
so, so stay with Torah. Within the United States, what regions stand out for you? And by regions, by extension, what Torahs stand out for you? I assume
northern
Wisconsin is one of those.
yeah, there's a lot of great cheese produced there. California, Northern California, Oregon, lots of great cheeses produced there, but cheese is produced in every state. It's just, cheesemakers in America, it took them a little while to start adapting their cheese making skills to encompass the terroir. Great one is about the dairy here in Georgia, Sweetgrass Dairy. They are in a unique area where they can grow grass year round. Water is abundant to them, and they can have there where they're located, they can have bigger farms. So they pasture their cows 24/7, 365. So they're always on fresh pastures. And that
They're winning awards all over the place, are they not?
they win World Cheese Awards, American Cheese Society Awards, everywhere that they
And
enter.
that's sweetgrass, correct?
Yeah.
Sweetgrass. Okay, go ahead.
And but like Upland's Cheese in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Andy Hatch, the cheesemaker there, he only makes cheese when the cows are in pastures because he really wants to reflect the, you know, flavor of the grasses that grow naturally in his pastures is expressed in the milk that he uses to make cheese from.
Take me to Northern California, our backyard. What dairies stand out for you there, and what do you always buy, and what do you like the most? And
Uh,
name names.
Bellwether Farms makes some of the best ricotta that I've ever had. You have Point Reyes, they make great blue cheese. Uh, Cypress Grove with their classic Humboldt Fog. Redwood Hills Dairy makes great goat cheeses. There's just a kind of a consolidation of a Cowgirl Creamery makes some great small format cheeses. Um, I just think that that area, that it is a lushness of their, like the area, the fauna grown there, and the flora is just so good for the animals. Southern Oregon, where Rogue Creamery is, and they have actually in 2019, they're the only American cheesemaker to ever win Best of Show at the World Cheese Awards. But they are pasture grazed. Their animals are grown, raised right on the banks of the Rogue River, their water source. Those kind of things all play into the conditions of the animals, the quality of the
I
milk,
got
and
it.
flavors that are passed through it, really depending on their diets.
Raymond, a quick digression, if I may, and we'll come back to Torah. The US is particularly tough on imported cheeses. I guess if they're not pasteurized, raw milk, et cetera, et cetera. Could you, don't go on too long, but just give me the headlines. What is it about the US requirements in terms of what we can taste and eat from
We can't have any raw milk cheeses that are aged less than 60 days. We can import the vast majority of raw milk cheeses age longer than that, but they do have to pass inspections. Uh, I mean, I guess the Department of Agriculture or the inspecting agencies, there have been instances where raw milk cheeses have gotten people sick. I mean, people with compromised immune systems, the elderly, the young, or pregnant women, they could affect them. And I think it's an abundance of caution. But it used to be a gulf of difference in the flavors between raw milk and pasteurized. Now, a lot of cheesemakers make cheeses with pasteurized milk, and they're able to add cultures to it and control the temperature of the aging, the length of aging, for it to develop the flavors that they are looking for. So, like I said, there used to be a great difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk. I don't think that there's a huge difference now. I get that a lot of people do like trying the raw milk versions of cheese. When I go to Europe, I eat a lot of raw milk cheeses. Um, but you know, it's a abundance of caution. So I'm not
Mhm.
against that. I don't want to serve anyone any product that may get them ill.
Let's talk about cost and expense. Why is it that I think I know what the answer is, but I want to ask it anyway. Why is it that better cheeses are more expensive?
There, what goes into making them high value cheeses versus commercially produced. I mean, a lot of like cheeses you see in stores and grocery stores are they're industrial factory made cheeses. They get milk from, they don't care in general where the milk comes as long as it can pass certain cleanliness minimums, and they make it in large batches, large format. But to really get super high quality cheeses, um, They make them in smaller batches, small, and they're handmade. I've seen like Layetta Vase from Switzerland. It's made one wheel at a time in a copper vat over a wood burning fire from the milk of the family who's making the cheese. They raise the animals. They control the entire process from the quality of life of the animals, the making the cheese to aging it. That kind of control is what makes the best cheeses in the world.
So it's the input of time, in other words.
Time and care and quality.
So if I'm paying 20 bucks a pound or 25 bucks a pound for a cheese in your shop, how much of that is import duty? How much of that is cost?
There's a whole lot of cost involved above what the cheesemaker sells it for, especially in European products, but even domestic products. Uh, Cheese is temperamental. It can't be exposed to high heat or cold. So transportation costs, then you got to clear
Okay.
customs, FDA, tariffs, and then everyone takes a marginal percentage. Uh, I order my cheeses from Europe pre-order, but I still have to go through a customs broker. I have to go through, use a distributor's credentials. They all take a cut off of it. So, a cheesemaker may sell a cheese at $10, then the transportation might be $5. Clearing customs, FDA, and the distributors may add another $3. So,
So there's a reason why it's expensive.
yes, without a doubt.
Okay.
I mean, they're generally speaking, the cheeses we get are made in really small batches, made by hand. Um, the greatest Gruyere maker in the country, 3 times his cheeses won Best of Show at the World Cheese Awards. He's limited to only making 7 cheeses a day. And so those cheeses are made by hand, small format, small
I
dough.
get it. I get it. Um, I'm trying to narrow down to, again, as a neophyte, where do I source my cheese outside of just inside the United States? I say to you, Raymond, I'm going to give you 4 airplane tickets, and I want you to go to the 4 regions of the globe where I want you to buy cheese that you like and that you want to sell. Where would you go?
Well, one of them would be obviously France. They have a wide variety of super high quality cheeses. Um, Italy, northern Italy, are some of the best cheeses I've ever had.
What specific regions? Can you talk about that?
The Piedmont region is well known for it, Lombardy, those regions, Emilia Romagna, the I mean, pretty much all of northern Italy. And the Swiss Alps, our Alpine style cheeses we have at Capella are some of the best cheeses that we have. And then Portugal, I've always been fascinated with the cheeses in Portugal. They have rustic qualities that make me think that this cheese is the same as they've been making the same cheese for 1,000 years. This is the same way it was prior. And then Spain. Spain is I mean, incredibly undervalued. Their cheeses are spectacular. They have a long, rich history of making super high quality cheeses, and they they try to make cheeses that have history. They are very much bringing their terroir expressions in their cheeses.
If you put those 4 cheeses on a table for me, knowing that I'm a neophyte, would I taste each of those? Would that be a transcendent experience for me?
I believe so. I mean, it is for me. I mean, the first time I had Marcel Petit 2 year Comte from the Jura Mountains, I thought it was, and I still think it's an incredible cheese, but no, afterwards finding out what it takes to make it, going to the Jura Mount to Fort St. Antoine, the underground aging facility, seeing the cheeses there, then watching the cheese masters, the cellar masters test the cheeses, taste them to see how their flavors developing, and then determining when they're ready to sell. Uh, it changed. I thought it was like the majority of it was maybe just in the makers, but it's also how it's aged, how it's cared for. And then, even as small as how it's shipped to me. I mean, I have to get it in the best condition. And so I need to work with people who can ship me cheese and help
The
maintain
right
it
way.
in the best condition.
I've seen the video of somebody, to me, Reggio Parmesan, that huge wheel that can cost thousands of dollars. At one point, somebody quoted $30,000 for a wheel. But the process of opening that, when you put the little, I call them little chisels in there,
Yep.
and you gradually, when you open a wheel of Reggio Parmesan, what is that like for you?
Every one of them is an experience. As a longtime cheesemonger, I love opening those wheels by hand for one reason. The very center of the cheese, the heart, the soul of it, getting to taste that cheese as it's being exposed to oxygen and air atmosphere for the first time in 18 months to 2 years and
That's
taste
something.
the cheese. It is an exceptional quality cheese. And once you've had great Parmesan, you will never go back to the little green
Right.
container of ground.
And by the way, that cheese is degrading every second after it's been opened, correct?
It is deteriorating, but we bought a 12-year wheel of Parmesan. Most Parmesan is sold between 12 and 18 months ready for consumption. We bought a wheel that was 12 years old and it was cave underground for more than 10 years. And then the cheesemaker retired 10 years ago. This is the last remaining wheel of cheese from this farm. And for when we opened it up and we tasted it, I mean, you're tasting history. You're tasting something that was made 12 years ago by one of the greatest cheesemakers in the world who hasn't made cheese in 10 years.
All right.
It it was a truly
I'm
experience.
getting bumps. Raymond, we're tight on time, and I got so much more to go. Let's move along quickly. Um, the cheese that I'm buying at Safeway or Costco, it's okay, right?
In some sense, I am okay with any cheese that anybody buys because anytime people are cheese curious, it's good. In general, I would stick to cheeses that were more firmer and harder. The cheddars are gonna always be pretty good. But I would keep it more, sounds horrible to say, but simpler cheeses because those stores can handle them, and those cheeses tend to be tougher. Um, but and then the softer, more delicate cheeses move up to, maybe go to a cheese shop and but they have to be held correctly because inhospitable holding of those cheeses can, like
It's
my
going to ruin
semi
them.
rind cheeses, Camembert Brie, it gives off ammonia, and if you get it and it's wrapped in plastic too long, that ammonia flavor goes back into the cheese. So now the cheese is not what it was meant to be.
I
So
got you. I got you. Quickly, some demos. Is there a demography for the heavy cheese consumer or cheese the person who appreciates good cheese or consumes good cheese?
I work in my cheese shop 5 days a week, and the people who come in who are true cheese fanatics, every walk of life, every, man, woman, young, old, uh,
It's across the board.
across the board, no matter where they're from. We have Asian people who love cheese. We have, people who've never been out of the area. It's
But there's no distinct category of demographic
no,
category. All right,
no.
good. Let's talk about consuming cheese. I know at Capella that you spent a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, on setting up rooms. uh, Can I call them refrigerated rooms to
Yeah,
store?
yeah.
Again, we're running out of time, but give me a quick overview of that. Why is that important?
Those cheese rooms, because they have no fans in them, because fans cause airflow. Airflow causes friction on the surface of the cheese. Friction causes dehydration. So there's no fans in it. We have cooling, but it's not with fans. Also, each room has its own individual humidity control because dehydration will kill your cheese faster than anything. And so our rooms range from 85 to above 95% humidity, and that really slows down the cheese's aging, and they can maintain their quality.
Now take me to the average home. How do I store cheese at home?
I would keep it in, like, we sell it in cheese paper, but if you buy it in a take it out of the type plastic container, put it in an oversized Ziploc, and maybe put it in a Tupperware container or something, and then put it in one of the drawers. Your refrigerator's really bad for cheese because your refrigerator has a dehydrator in it because you don't want to have frost build up like in the freezer. And so your refrigerator actually pulls moisture out of products. So keeping the cheese somewhat contained in an airtight Ziploc or a Tupperware style container, that will expand the life of the quality portion of your cheese.
And then put it in the produce drawer of the
Yeah,
refrigerator.
yeah.
In other words, keep it away from. Excellent. Does cheese have a shelf date? Does cheese go off over time? And I
Well,
understand it's by variety, but overall.
yeah. In general, I mean, once again, how you hold it, the conditions it's stored in. Young soft cheeses, soft ripening cheeses, white bloomy rind cheeses, geotrichum rind with the wrinklet. Those will go off much faster than Mount Alpine cheeses, hard cheeses, and it really does depend on the age and how the cheese is made. But yeah, all cheeses have a best premium time frame, and some of them it can be years, some of them it's weeks.
In my cheese drawer in my refrigerator, there are plastic Ziploc bags of different cheeses. How do I know when to throw one of those Ziploc bags away?
Your nose and your eyes will tell, you'll see it. And if it starts to develop mold, it's not the end of the world if it's like a blue mold or slightly green. But if it's a black mold or it's a wet mold, then you need to throw those away. But also the smell. Uh, the cheese, when it starts to deteriorate, it will create volatile gases, and you'll be able to smell the cheese. And also just touching the texture of the rind, the outside of the cheese, you'll know when it's starting to deteriorate and needs to be disposed of.
So tonight, let's say I've got 5 or 6 people coming over for just an informal social occasion, and I want to serve. I've just bought some great cheeses. What's the perfect pairing when you sit down to taste cheese, a new cheese, and you want to pair it with food on that occasion? What's the best pairing for you?
For me, I think that I would start out with fresh baked bread. Any, great baked bread. Fresh tree fruits, pears, apples are always good. Uh, Something even simple like grapes are fine. Um, and then I generally believe that white wine goes better with cheese than red wine. Not that there aren't cheeses that go great with big red wines, but in general, crispy white wines go better with cheese. I think champagne's a great accompaniment to cheese, Riesling, uh, Burgundy style Chardonnay. Those are all like great wines to go with cheese.
But today, I sit down with you today, and you say, "Alf, I've got a new cheese. Let's sit down together and try this." What would you accompany that with right now, today?
crackers or bread. I mean, especially when you're just beginning a cheese and evaluating it. And then you start figuring out, okay, this would be good with quince paste, or this would be good with a onion compote, or but in my initial tasting phases, it's always fresh bread or plain crackers.
I want to talk about health implications quickly. If you talk to an MD, to a doctor, to the medical profession, they'll say, particularly from cardio point of view, you can't eat too much cheese. Hard cheese better than soft cheese. What's some advice you can give us here, just overall on a health
Well, I
perspective?
also I unfortunately I spend a lot of time talking to doctors about it. I mean, yeah, it is what would be, you could consider it less healthy, but also it takes less cheese to satiate. I mean, on average, people might eat 2 ounces to 3 ounces of cheese at a setting where, people order a 10 or 12 ounce steak, and, you eat less of high quality cheese because the flavor is there and it satiates your desires. Um, I think it's everything in moderation. I uh, I try a lot of cheeses every day, but I also don't go home and then eat a plate of nachos with half a pound of cheddar on
How's your cholesterol level?
them. I have to take medications to control it.
All right. Well, welcome to the statin group. By the way, do you eat Velveeta or American cheese?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of. When you slum with cheese, what do you slum with?
I don't even consider it slumming. I love a 1 year cheddar. We have a Wisconsin cheddar maker, been making cheddar for 100 years. The Widmer family in Teresa, Wisconsin. Their 1 year cheddar, very affordable, and it is it's melty, it's cream. I love it on scrambled eggs or an omelet. I put it on a sandwich. It's just delicious to snack on. It is my go-to cheese. It's funny, I usually only take home like 3 cheeses, and the 1 year cheddar's one, the Comte's one, and the Gruyere's. The Gruyere I can cook with, and the cheddar and but or you can eat it straight. So
If you were making a cheese sandwich, a grilled cheese sandwich tomorrow, what cheeses would you put on that sandwich?
I would probably put something that was a little creamy, like a ricotta or a fresh goat cheese. I would put the 1 year cheddar, and then I would maybe spike it up with something that was a little washed around, a little taleggio from northern Italy that's got a little more flavor to it, a little punch. And all of those are super creamy, melty, and on multigrain bread that's been over buttered.
Mm. I don't know if you've seen the movie Chef. If you ever get a chance, the opening scene, the opening sequence is the making of the perfect grilled cheese sandwich. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit of marketing as we end up here. Why is it that you guys are so lousy at marketing? Like, for instance, wine knows how to sell itself as a gift. Why doesn't cheese sell as a gift?
It's because I think vast majority of people is their lack of knowledge on it. People like giving wine, especially something that they know about that they've had before. But it's different with cheese. Um, and we're also, it's perishable. And it kills me to say it, is a lot of cheese is sold past its prime. And so it takes away from, the impact that people want when they give a gift. Uh, so, I mean, I agree with you 100%. But a lot of it is that it's about buying it at a place that's dedicated to keeping cheese in the best condition at the highest quality.
All right, so I want to. I'm a realtor, let's say, and I want to send a gift pack of cheese, and I want to spend. Let's pick a number here. I want to spend $125.
Yeah,
on a wow gift pack of cheese. What's in that pack?
we have a couple. We have a best of America, best of Europe one. They each have three different cheeses, some accompaniments, some crackers, other little things that would go good with it. Uh, I'm really, like we have in our best of America, it has the cheese that at three different times has won the best of show at the American Cheese Society con.
But where is the wow?
The wow is in once you taste those cheeses, and so many people tell me I've tried manchego before, and until I tried yours, I didn't know what great manchego
Yeah.
was. Or like Gruyere, they're like, yeah, I get my Gruyere at the Publix, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of Gruyere, but it's not really. And then you try it made by Michael Speaker, the best cheese, Gruyere cheesemaker ever, and you have his, and you're like, wow, that is a different cheese. Um, so yeah, just try to find some place that's really, really important that they maintain cheeses in the best of condition.
Raymond, let's wrap up with just resources. I want if I'm aspirational about cheese, and I want to find out. I want to enhance my knowledge of cheese. Again, starting from the point of being a neophyte, where do I go on the internet?
You can go to, there are cheese shops that have great websites. I think ours, capellacheese.com, is a great website.
Give me two of your competitors.
Zingerman's is a big time, they're in Ann
They're out
Arbor.
of Michigan, right?
Yeah, they've been selling great cheese for a long time. Formaggio Kitchen in Boston has an incredible reputation. De Bruno Brothers in Philadelphia, they are passionate about great cheese, great food. Uh, and
Okay. By the way, do you ship to California?
we ship all over the U.S. other than Hawaii and Alaska.
All right. I'm going through again the sources of information. Cable food shows. Any that are worth watching?
Uh, some of them, I think sometimes they touch on, great cheese, but also a lot of times they're just trying to do like eye candy. There's one where a guy's in Italy and he's trying cheeses and he's saying how great. But there's probably a really good cheese, but there are better ones. Um, really the where you're going to learn the most is being in a shop that allow you to try cheeses and talking to cheesemongers
And sample.
and sample. The more cheeses you eat, the better you are able to identify the ones that appeal to you the most.
What about the sort of traditional print media, Food and Wine, Severe magazines? Any sources there that are worth reading and subscribing to?
Yeah, Food and Wine is great. Savor is great. Um, I mean, just keep looking for it. There's a ton of great books available. From melty cheese to cheese for parties, and then just kind of basic knowledge of cheese. There's a lot of like resources, but really it's like finding people, cheesemongers, cheese shops that are passionate about cheese and that they want to share the knowledge.
And we shouldn't feel guilty about sampling inside that store, correct?
Oh no, you're like if they eh, that's how you learn. Like we at Capella, we have an aggressive sampling program. We sample cheeses every day. And there are days where we sample our highest value cheeses. We want people to try them, to see them, we think that if people try great cheeses, that they're going to love great cheeses. An educated customer is the best customer.
In San Francisco, much as it's a culinary hub and a culinary pod, I'm not aware that there are a lot of restaurants that have cheese selections, cheese trays, cheese carts, etc. Within San Francisco and the Bay Area, name one or two or three restaurants where you know that the chefs have an appreciation of fine cheese.
Cyrus and Hillsburg. I mean, their co-owner, front of the house man, is incredibly passionate and knowledgeable about cheese. The There are so many restaurants that incorporate cheese, and then the French Laundry, those high end, those I mean restaurants that are probably more gourmet, but also like there's a lot of places that use great cheese. I sell handmade fresh mozzarella to a sandwich shop, and they make a chicken parm sandwich that people claim is the best that they've ever had. And so you just have to find I mean, you look for it and it's there. If it's something that interests you, uh, find places where the chefs are excited and you'll find great products and great cheese.
Raymond, we are at time here. I really appreciate everything. I learned a lot from you today, as I always do when I talk to you. I wish I was a better student after all this time. May I impose upon you when I send out the connection, the Lux stream this afternoon to today's recording? Can I put your email address in
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah. Any questions anybody has, even if, I mean, there is no wrong questions. I want to help people further their cheese journey. I want to answer questions. I want to help people get to the next step. I want to help people find their next favorite cheese.
Okay, I'm going to put your email address in that so people can contact you directly. We're at the top of the hour. Raymond, I want to thank you very, very much for your advice, for all the feedback and the learning today.
Oh, thank
Um,
you. It's my pleasure.
you've also made me hungry. I want to go eat a big hunk of cheese. And to our audience, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it that there are some other aficionados or budding aficionados for cheese out there like the rest of us. So with that, we are adjourned, and we wish you great cheese eating days ahead. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, take care.
Bye now.